utterly amazed at the approach that Dabo Swinney and the Clemson Tigers are taking. I'll let you expand on it, but basically, if you're being recruited by Clemson, you're going to be in South Carolina this weekend. Explain to the people, like, I don't know if I've ever seen this, but if you explain it in your best ability, because it's pretty wild.
Well, look, Clemson marches to the beat of its own drum, and that carries over into recruiting as well, right? Dabo Swinney, typically very conservative, even with a verbal scholarship offer. This is the one caveat that Clemson can continue to hold on compared to just about everybody else in the country. When you get that Clemson offer, it truly means something maybe different compared to every other program in the country. Georgia, Ohio State, Texas, Miami, Florida State, a little bit more or a lot more liberal with those offers. 300, 400, 500 could go out. Clemson, a much smaller number per class. And oftentimes they want you in Death Valley before that offer goes out. I've had many prospects over the years tell me that was the case. So because of that, they're able to focus on a smaller group of prospects, and it means they can get ahead of the scheduling. And this is the thing, you know, the old adage was you want the last visit, right? You want the last official visit closer to signing day, so that impression, that time you just spent on campus weighs into which hat you put on in front of the cameras. But in this day and age of NIL, and let's be honest, programs asking recruits to shut it down and not take other visits, schools like Clemson are front loading that. And this is, you know, the epitome of front loading. I think they've got 30 official visitors this weekend. Half of them are each and every Clemson commitment. So not only are you front loading with the uncommitted guys, you're bringing your commitments back who, again, have agreed to shut down the process. So guess what? They're enjoying their future home, and they're also peer recruiting. So at just about every single position where you're bringing in an elite recruit, you've got another guy committed there saying, hey, let's be roommates. Let's look at this together. You know, we're coming in and experiencing this together. And it just resonates on a different level with uncommitted prospects. It always has, and it probably always will, maybe even more so now in the NIL era, because, you know, kids can start comparing numbers and deals and different things like that to see kind of where they're at with certain things. So I applaud Clemson for leaning into its individuality on the recruiting trail. And look, it's not a lack of star power either, right? The commitment class is very strong. We mentioned number one right now in the ACC, and the group of targets that are going to Clemson are ridiculous. I jotted a few names down. Joey O'Brien, Tyler Atkinson, Darius Gray, Bryce Perry Wright, Blake Stewart. I mean, these are guys, Dre Quinn, these are guys from pipeline states that you're battling national programs for. But the hope is on the Clemson side, you grab a commitment or two, and those kids now shut it down, and you don't have to worry about that position, that kid going forward, because he's 99% locked in with the Tigers. So I think if it happens early in the week, you could see a little bit of, monkey see, monkey do. Hey, let's find some momentum here and roll with it. You know, kids have their head on a swivel in recruiting in this day and age. So momentum that we see with a school getting 4, 5, 6 commitments in one weekend, a lot of that starts with one guy getting up in front of the locker room, in front of the other parents and saying, hey, I'm going to be a Clemson Tiger. Everyone's, Dabo's jumping up, celebrating, dancing. And you see the instant gratification that obviously this generation looks for. You see it tenfold. You see it to the nth degree. And it might nudge a guy or two on the fence to say, hey, you know what? That I could see myself getting that, right? So, and then they roll with it. So I do think that it could be a really big weekend for Clemson. A lot of their big commitment bursts to this point came on visit weekends. I think the weekend Grant Wise committed, Gordon Sellers committed, Chance Barkley committed. It was one after the other. So you would imagine how big it got for an unofficial visit weekend. Well, now Clemson's paying for everything, the steaks, the hotels, wine and dine, right? So imagine that potential with some of these other guys on campus, especially with all those guys I just mentioned, all those verbal commitments coming back to Death Valley to nudge you that much more. So Clemson's unique in its recruiting approach, and if it went the way they envision it, Clemson would be all but done with the class of 2026 by this time next week. Unprecedented, probably won't happen, but not outside of the realm of possibility. That's how structured and efficient Clemson recruits.